What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. So let's get into it. So I kind of want to take this time to go into a little bit of the state of the Cowboys, being that it's the bye week and everything. I already gave you guys my feelings on the game against the Detroit Lions. I rewatched it on film. It was a tough rewatch. I feel like every single thing that could have possibly went bad for the Cowboys did, and it's their own fault. But so I'm not going to really touch on that much. What I'm going to do today, like I said, go over a general overview of the state of the Cowboys, and then kind of spend the next few days on the bye week, kind of going over, different facets of the team: offensive line, wide receivers, defensive line, linebackers, secondary, quarterback, running backs, all that different stuff, special teams, which is pretty much the only bright spot for the Cowboys through this first 6 games of the season. So I want to start with Jerry Jones' comments on 105.3 The Fan, man. I really feel like there was some good things that come out of that, and there was some bad things that come out of that. So the good thing, Jerry Jones was irritated, right? So it's kind of nice to see, from my perspective, that he still cares about how the team is and how they're performing. He did do a lot of, oh, we have to play better and things like that, which I don't like as much. I think that was one of the bad things that come out from the team, from the interview. Also, the way he kind of tried to imply that because he had success, 30 years ago, that's something that we should be giving him credit for in 2024, which is a little bit weird to me. Also, with him talking about, oh, where are we going to go get players? And them kind of point blank asking, hey, during the offseason with free agency and stuff, you had a chance to, go get some players and add to your team and make your team better. And for Jerry Jones to just kind of sidestep that as a, valid point, and instead more so went over, oh, we can't rehash the past. He wants to rehash the past when it's beneficial for him. He wants to rehash the past when it comes to, hey, I won 3 Super Bowls. Hey, I made a investment that people will say is a poor investment in the Dallas Cowboys in 1989. And, look how that turned out. It was a good investment. So he wants to use that to his credit and rehash the past when it's, beneficial for him. But now that we're talking about the past as in a few months ago, which has direct correlation to the 2024 season, now it's, oh, I don't want to go through the past mistakes and the past bad things that I did. I'd rather talk about something else because, if we went over every decision as far as a bad decision and we never talked about any of the good decisions, then it would just be, us sitting here going over all the bad things. You can make a whole episode just based off of that. So, a little bit of accountability in some places and a little bit of lack of accountability in other places. And when you look at how the team has performed through the first 6 games, right? You go to Cleveland, New York, and Pittsburgh. Those are your wins. And then you have New Orleans there. You have the Ravens, and you have the Detroit Lions there that are your losses. In the Ravens game, you were uncompetitive for most of the game. You made it a little bit competitive when it came down to the fourth quarter and making your comeback there and, getting those scores and getting back into the game, ultimately to once Baltimore offensively turned it back on, you weren't able to get a defensive stop, game over. But for the most part, the Saints game, you were competitive when it was 21-13 right after CeeDee Lamb's long touchdown. So you were competitive for only about 2 quarters in that game. And the Lions, you were competitive for about 5 minutes when it was 7-3. After that, you weren't competitive at all. So, you're talking about altogether maybe 24 minutes of competitive football at home as opposed to the 12 quarters that you've played. You've played basically what amounts to almost 1/2 of competitive football altogether in 3 games at home. And the reason why this is even more troubling when it comes to the Cowboys is because besides the Saints, who now look like, hey, maybe they weren't as good as we thought, now that can have a lot to do with the amount of injuries the New Orleans Saints are dealing with right now. I know I'm talking about the Cowboys. Nobody's going to feel sorry because we're dealing with a crap load of injuries ourselves. But what I'm saying is the New Orleans Saints were a much healthier, better team when we played them as opposed to how they are now. But even still, the Ravens are going to be a playoff team. They were in the AFC Championship last year. The Lions are going to be a playoff team, and they were in the NFC Championship last year. So if Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, because I don't want to just make it sound like it's Jerry, it's everybody, right? It's Dak Prescott, it's Mike McCarthy, it's everybody. If they want to sell us this pipe dream that the Cowboys are all of a sudden going to get to January and be competitive when playoff time comes, then what we're seeing is not good at all, because to me, the way the Cowboys are playing, they'll be lucky to even make it to January if you start to look at some of the upcoming opponents on the schedule, namely the 49ers, the Falcons, the Houston Texans. All those games are coming up, and all those teams look better than you right now. So I'm of the mind that it's going to be tough for the Cowboys to even make it to January football when it comes to the postseason, if there's some regular season games in January or whatever. But it makes me wonder if the Cowboys are doing what they say they do, which is their self-scout, right? Mike McCarthy talks about it a lot in his press conferences. He goes, after the game, we take a look at the tape, we grade it, and then our very next step is going through our self-scout. So when you do your self-scout, to me, you're talking about, hey, what have we done well? What haven't we done well? Where do we need to improve upon? What do we need to work on, right? It looks like on tape that the Cowboys are lying to themselves in their self-scout. They're going, hey, man, we're doing this right. All we need to do is just a little bit more of a tweak here. Or, hey, man, you're doing great. Your effort is awesome. Your leverage is perfect. The guy behind you messed it up on this play. Whatever they're saying to themselves is obviously not doing themselves any favors. So I feel like the Dallas Cowboys need to take a look at their self-scout. I know during the bye week they like to do what they call the across the hall thing, which is, the offense goes and meets with the defensive coaches. The defense goes and meets with the offensive coaches, and they kind of get a feel for, hey, if this is how I was attacking you, this is what the scouting report says, this is what I would do to you. But to me also, if you're consistently doing your self-scout, you should know what your weaknesses are. I've talked about this several times, so we're going to talk about it again. The coach's job, right? Head coach, defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, special teams coach, either one of them. Their job is A, to put your players in the right position to succeed. B, make sure there's consistent messaging from top to bottom throughout the entire team, throughout all 69 guys, because you got 53 plus 16 on a practice squad. So all 69 guys, making sure that the message is consistent. And then C, accentuating your strengths and mitigating your weaknesses. Right? And you can't tell me that just because the Cowboys have injuries that all of a sudden now their defense can't stop a fucking nosebleed. Wasn't supposed to say that, but hey, it's out there now. So they can't do anything. The offensive line isn't blocking anyone. Zach Martin's getting blown off the ball. He's getting swim moved. He's getting inside moved. He's missing stunts. Cooper Beebe has been playing well most of the season, but he looked like crap that game. Tyler Smith was probably your only good offensive lineman against the Detroit Lions. And even when you go back to some of those other games where Tyler Guyton was having some trouble with Matabike and some of the other rushers in Baltimore, the Cowboys' offensive line largely was still doing sort of okay with holding up for Dak. But I feel like the Detroit Lions was a culmination of everything that's wrong with this team this season, right? They couldn't run the ball and they couldn't stop the run. So I'm hoping this during this bye week that the team has a come to Jesus moment and is very honest with themselves, right? Because you've tied up a lot of money into this team, even though Jerry Jones, says, hey, we spent money on Dak and we spent money on CD. It's true, you did, but you still have $24 million in cap space. But that aside, you tied up a lot of money in this team. Trayvon Diggs is getting paid. Terrence Steele is getting paid. Zach Martin's getting paid. Dak Prescott's getting hella paid. CeeDee Lamb's getting hella paid. And this is your offense, right? Zeke, even though we cut Zeke and brought him back on the veteran minimum, because he still counts with his dead money for almost $7 million against the cap, plus his deal now, he's still $8.5 million at running back. Zeke is making more than a lot of the running backs that we passed on this offseason that are showing better in the running game. At this point, man, the Cowboys need to have a come-to-Jesus moment, especially when it comes to some players that they love, right? They love Ezekiel Elliott. He needs to sit down, right? Terrence Steele, If you're not going to play well, I'm sorry. I know you have 17 million there. You're going to have to sit down, bro. We're going to have to figure out some things and change some things around on the offensive line to get better results. Ezekiel Elliott, you're going to be inactive this week, and we're going to call up, one of our other guys. I know we don't have Royce Freeman anymore on the practice squad. I think they still have Malik Davis. At this point, I'd rather give Malik Davis some run. Let's see what the Malik Davis, Rico Dowdle, and Hunter Lipke trio looks like, running into the game against the 49ers. You can't just keep doing the same things. There's a certain point, right, in all of our lives, especially when it comes to sports or anything that you're competitive about. There is a certain point that consistency is a great thing, right, to build habits. But the key there is you're supposed to be building good habits. You're supposed to be building good consistency, right? Now, when things are not working, to continue to stay the course is a little bit asinine, right? You don't want to make such drastic changes that your team can't comprehend the changes that you're making and everybody's playing confused the following week. But you do want to tweak things. And there are some very specific things that the Cowboys need to tweak. And we'll go more into that as we dive into each position group over the next few days. But thank you guys for tuning in. That's all I got for you. You can follow me on Twitter at jmilleriyl. You can also email me at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You can also email me at knockersonthebottom@gmail.com. You can leave comments below. Any questions, anything that you want me to cover, I'll take them here. I'll take them on Twitter. I'll take them via email, throw them into a mailbag, make it a formal segment. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button so that you know when we're coming on. Still trying to raise the amount of subscribers. But thank you guys. Love you so much. Until next time, I'm your host, J Mill. J Miller, if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.